Hello everyone, and welcome to Lavoria Network. Thank you for joining me today. I have a deeply emotional story to share, one about betrayal, strength, and unexpected redemption. I hope by the end you'll feel both moved and inspired. When I first met my husband, he was warm, gentle, and someone I believed the world of. We married young, full of hope and dreams. His family seemed kind, at least at first glance. His mother, though, had always been uneasy around me. I dismissed it as nerves, or maybe fear of change. But I never imagined how dark things would become, and how the woman who vowed to destroy us would eventually break. From the moment I entered their home, tension simmered beneath polite smiles. My mother-in-law would offer thin compliments, laced with subtle digs. She questioned my every choice, the way I dressed, the way I cooked, the time I spent with her son. I tried to be patient, to show kindness, to win her approval, but it never came. Instead, her criticism grew sharper, her demands more relentless, and her presence more threatening. One evening, after a quiet dinner, she cornered me in the kitchen. Her voice low, but full of menace, she said she would ruin my family if I didn't divorce her son. My heart froze. How could a mother speak that way about her own child's wife? I stared at her with disbelief, tears in my eyes. She called me weak, unworthy, and insisted that if I remained, both my husband and our children would pay the price. I remember trembling in that moment, feeling helpless, isolated. I went to my husband trembling, telling him what she had said. He tried to calm me, said she was angry, that things would pass. But I knew better. Her vow was dangerous, and I knew life wouldn't stay peaceful. The nights that followed were filled with cold silences and hidden fears. Her tactics began subtle, whispered lies to my husband, text messages implying I was unfaithful, rumors to her neighbors, calls in the middle of the night. She would show up unannounced, demand to see private family matters, manipulate, guilt, threaten. Our home turned into a battlefield of emotional warfare. I often sat in our living room, tears streaming, unable to breathe. But I kept telling myself, I must hold on, for my husband, for our children, for my dignity. My husband's love wavered under pressure. He began doubting me, asking questions I couldn't always answer. He grew distant. I pleaded, assured him I was faithful, that his mother was poisoning his mind. But he struggled. He felt torn between a wife he once believed in and a mother he'd known all his life. In quiet moments, he would look at me with fear. Was I doing the wrong thing by defending myself, he wondered. One afternoon, I came home to find her in my house, standing in my doorway, glaring at me as though I was an intruder. She demanded to see my bank statements, my social media messages, insisted I was hiding something. My lungs tightened, my heart pounded. I asked her to leave. She refused. My husband arrived, shocked, and defended me. A massive argument erupted, with shouting, tears, and explosive accusations. That night, I realized things could never return to normal. Despite everything, I tried to make peace. I suggested family therapy, boundary setting, open conversations. But she refused. She said I was trying to alienate her son. She escalated further, sending letters to my family, spreading stories about me, stirring conflict among relatives. My parents were worried. Friends whispered. Neighbors stared. I felt cast out, like a criminal for loving my husband. Every morning I woke with knots in my stomach. Every night I cried silently beside my sleeping husband. I felt powerless. But somewhere deep inside, something resistant grew. I decided, I would not let her define me. I would fight for my family, even if that meant making a painful choice. I began documenting everything, messages, voicemails, visits, threats. I whispered to myself, I will survive this. One evening, I called my husband in tears and confessed that if things didn't improve, I feared his mother would succeed in destroying us. He looked at me, remorse filling his eyes, and admitted his mother's influence had already poisoned his trust. He asked, what do we do now? And so I said, we set boundaries. Or we walk away from anything destroying us. He tried confronting her, asking her to stop, to respect us. She refused. She raged. She threatened. She said she would make him regret choosing me. The tension in our home snapped like a cord. My husband, weary and confused, said, "Maybe you're right. Maybe we can't stay here." I held his hands and cried, fear and relief mingling. Then came the hardest moment of my life. I made the decision to walk away from the marriage. To end what I thought was forever. I knew that losing him would break me, but I also knew staying would destroy me. That night, I packed a bag, left with our children, and moved to a small apartment. My heart shattered, but I felt a strange glimmer of freedom. The day after I left, my mother-in-law called. She choked up as though I had physically abandoned her. She painted a picture of a broken son, a betrayed mother, and a wife gone wrong. She told mutual relatives I had run away. She acted innocent. She cried crocodile tears. Many believed her version. I felt vilified, misunderstood, isolated. But I held silent. I refused to react emotionally. I stayed calm and factual. Weeks passed. I tried to rebuild. I focused on my children's smiles, their laughter. I found a small job, reconnected with friends, leaned on my own parents. I felt empty, but determined. Slowly, I began to heal. I discovered that peace isn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of hope. I whispered to myself, I deserve happiness. Meanwhile, my husband struggled. He tried reaching me, called repeatedly, asked forgiveness. He accused me of abandoning him. He himself was torn between a mother he loved and a family he lost. But he never blamed his mother publicly, he tried being the bridge. Yet every attempt backfired because the damage was deep. One afternoon, his mother visited me, unannounced. She stood outside my apartment door, trembling. I opened the door, surprised and wary. She looked at me, tears in her eyes, voice shaking. She said, I was wrong. She sobbed, I lost my son because I pushed you away. She pleaded for forgiveness. But I was stunned. Could I trust her? Could I forgive her for the years of venom she poured? I closed the door gently, refusing to let her in emotionally. Over time, she retreated from her hostility. She became silent. The rumors she spread died off. The manipulation ceased. She vanished from our lives. My husband and I never reconciled. As much as I loved him, the wounds were too deep, and trust too fractured. But I found something better, peace, self-respect, and love for myself. Now, when I look back, I see a woman who threatened to ruin me, but ended up destroying herself by her own doing. She broke her own foundation, the connections she hoped to control. And I survived. I learned that no one can threaten you with destruction, unless you yield power to them. To anyone listening, your life is yours. No one gets to decide your worth. If someone threatens your family, your happiness, your very identity, sometimes the bravest act is walking away. It's not failure, it's choosing yourself. Healing is slow, but possible. You're not alone. Thank you for staying with me this long. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to Lavoria Network. Remember, your story is powerful. You deserve peace, love, and respect. I'll see you next time, where we share more lives, more lessons, more hope.